All right, today we are tackling a challenge that so many caregivers know all too well, that late afternoon wave of agitation that people often call sundowning. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? Let's dive into a new way to think about calming that storm.
So, let's start with this story about Miss L. Every single day, just like clockwork, the chaos would start. And this scene, this is probably so familiar to many of you. It feels totally unpredictable, it's exhausting, and, it's just heartbreaking for absolutely everyone involved.
The common wisdom, right, is that this is just a part of dementia, some kind of unavoidable glitch in the brain. But is it? Is all that chaos truly inevitable? Or is there something else going on here that maybe, just maybe, we can actually influence?
So let's start by really defining what we're talking about. Section 1, the 4 p.m. chaos. This is that time of day when everything just seems to unravel, and that feeling of helplessness can completely take over, both for the person going through it and for the caregiver.
Most of us use that term sundowning, but think about the word itself. It suggests something that just happens to us, like the sun setting. It's a label that kind of implies we just have to brace for it and endure it. But what if that very label is what's holding us back from finding a real solution?
Okay, so this brings us right to the core of what we're talking about today. Section 2, decoding the agitation. This is where we're going to challenge that old helpless way of thinking and introduce a completely new perspective.
And to do that, we need a different framework. It's called behavioral gerontology. Now that sounds pretty academic, I know, but it's actually a huge shift in focus. Instead of looking inside the brain for that glitch, it tells us to look outside, at the environment. It's all about studying how a person's surroundings influence what they do, with the ultimate goal of preventing distress before it even starts.
This slide really lays out the whole paradigm shift. The old view sees sundowning as this random, unavoidable thing that's just tied to the time of day. But the new view, this behavioral view, sees it as a predictable chain of events, a reaction to specific triggers in the environment. And here's the kicker. If it's predictable, that means it's preventable.
Which, of course, leads us to the most important question of all. If it's not just about the setting sun, then what is this agitation really about? What is the person trying to communicate or even achieve with these behaviors?
Well, it turns out these actions usually serve a purpose, or a function, as scientists call it. They're not just random. A lot of the time, it's an attempt to escape something overwhelming, like a blaring TV or harsh glare from a light. Or maybe it's a need for some kind of sensory input after a really quiet, inactive day. Or honestly, it could just be plain old end-of-day fatigue, which makes even the smallest things feel totally overwhelming. Okay, so if we can decode the behavior, we can change it. This is the good part, the practical, actionable stuff. Section 3, building a calm evening.
And the prevention plan is actually surprisingly straightforward. It really just boils down to 3 main strategies. First, you manipulate the antecedents. That's just a fancy word for the things that happen before the behavior. Second, you structure the environment. And third, you reinforce calm.
Let's start with step 1, because this is a total game changer. Calm evenings are actually built in the morning. Think about it. A day filled with boredom or not enough stimulation creates this need that often just boils over later in the afternoon. So by structuring the entire day with gentle, engaging activities, you can prevent that distress from ever building up in the first place. Now for step 2, designing a calm environment, especially during that really critical 4 to 7 p.m. window. So as the sun goes down, don't let the house get dark and full of shadows. Instead, smoothly transition to warm, consistent lamplight. Create a cozy, familiar landing zone, a favorite chair, a soft blanket. These aren't just small comforts, they are really powerful, nonverbal signals that tell the brain, hey, it's time to feel safe and calm now.
And that leads us to step 3, which is all about your response. And this is so critical. How you react in that moment of agitation actually teaches your loved one what's going to happen next. Your reaction can either pour fuel on the fire, or it can be the thing that guides them back to a state of calm.
So let's just look at this comparison. Our gut instinct might be to fire off questions like, what's wrong? Or to raise our voice. But all that does is add more intensity, and it actually ends up reinforcing the panic. So what works better? Gentle, redirecting language. Offering a soothing activity, like putting on their favorite music. The key is to reward the small moments of calm, not the agitation, with your positive attention and engagement. Okay, now let's put a really powerful tool directly into your hands. Section 4, your caregiver's toolkit.
This is where you get to shift from being a reactive caregiver to a proactive behavior detective. The idea here is to chart every episode, not as a failure, but as data. As soon as you start looking for the pattern, you can start to solve the puzzle.
And this is the tool you're going to use, the AFC chart. It looks simple, but it is incredibly effective. A is for antecedent, what happened right before the agitation started. F is for function, what need was the person trying to meet. And C is for consequence, what calmed them down the fastest. That consequence, that is your golden ticket. It's the positive reinforcer you can start to use proactively next time.
So, this brings all the pieces together. Let's wrap things up with our final section, moving from reaction to prevention.
If you take only one single thing away from this whole explainer, please let it be this. Agitation is not aggression. It's communication.
It is the body's way of sending up a flare, a distress signal. It's saying, my world feels really confusing and overwhelming right now, and I need your help to feel safe. When we can see it that way, our entire approach can shift from one of frustration to one of compassionate problem solving.
At the end of the day, this isn't about finding some magic cure. It's about something much more powerful, replacing the chaos of the unknown with the comfort of predictability. And when you do that, you don't just restore peace for your loved one, you reclaim it for yourself too. And that leaves us with one last guiding question. The question isn't, how do I stop this behavior? Instead, let's ask a much more curious and compassionate one. What is your loved one trying to tell you?